Welcome to Miracles in the Madness, where faith meets the chaos. I'm your host, Ashton, and together we'll explore stories, Bible truths, and encouragement for women living in the beautiful, messy life God has called them to. Each week, we'll dive into real-life testimonies, practical encouragement, and Bible insights to help you walk faithfully through the everyday madness. Come join me. Welcome back to Miracles in the Madness. I'm Ashton Keever, your host, and today I want to talk to you about something that's really special to me. Recently, my husband and I celebrated 7 years of marriage. We've been together for 14 years, but we officially were married for 7 years recently, and I thought that this was an important time to talk about Christian marriage and how important your marriage is in this journey of parenting and your Christian walk and all of those things. Now, if you're someone who's listening to this who isn't married, maybe you're a single parent, maybe you're not married maybe it's not your choice that you're not married anymore or whatever, know that this is in no way aimed at shaming anyone for whatever the lifestyle choices or events that led to not being married. But if you are a married person, this is something that really, really matters for your children. And I think that even if you're not married, these are some things that you can model in your relationships if you're in a relationship, or maybe even guide your kids through when they're considering marriage or, talking about what their relationships should look like. So with that, I think it's a great time to share with you 7 things that I've learned in 7 years of marriage. So let's get started. So recently I was in my good friend's wedding, and the reading that they chose, the scripture that they chose to read in their ceremony was 1 Corinthians chapter 13. I'm going to read a little bit of it for you just to kick us off and really set the tone here for, first of all, what God describes love as. But there's so much in the Bible about marriage and what that should or shouldn't look like. And so, just know that this is one of the chapters that people tend to really gravitate towards in weddings, but it actually really isn't necessarily talking about marriage in this specific chapter. It's actually a letter from Paul to the church of Corinthians, and he's talking kind of more about spiritual maturity and the way that we should treat each other, like how to love our neighbor. So while it is definitely still applicable in marriage, the context isn't actually necessarily geared towards marriage. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 4 through 13. Love is patient, love is kind. Love does not envy, is not boastful, is not arrogant, is not rude, is not self-seeking, is not irritable, and does not keep a record of wrongs. Love finds no joy in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put aside childish things. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, but then a face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully, as I am fully known. Now these 3 remain: faith, hope, and love. but the greatest of these is love. So, um, when we talk about love, if you are loving your partner well, um, when you're having an argument, maybe this says here that love is not boastful, it's not arrogant, it does not envy, it is not rude, it's not self-seeking, not irritable, and it doesn't keep a record of wrongs. So if you're doing any of those things in your marriage, I would encourage you, and maybe you may not be aware of it, I don't know, because how often are we that self-aware, right? But you may just take some time to pray about this stuff and look into this chapter and just sort of meditate on it, study it, and really seek God's wisdom, because true love can find a way around those things, and it doesn't do those things. So anyway, just to kick us off, I just thought that would be kind of a fun chapter to read to kick us off, but I want to dive in now. So I'm going to start at maybe, I'm going to work my way up, right? So number 7 is never stop dating your partner. And I know a lot of people say this, right? So just before I even get too far, I love to give advice to people who are about to get married or have a new baby. Like when somebody asks for my advice, it is such an honor to be, I guess, maybe that person thinks that I am wise enough in that area to seek my advice. It means so much to me. And so, gosh, I can't even imagine what I'm going to feel like as a grandparent when my grandkids come and ask me questions. I don't even know. But I really, really love giving advice. And I try not to give it if I don't have anything good to say. Usually my default is, have you prayed about it? But anyway, so when I go to a bridal shower or something like that where they want you to write down advice, I actually I wrote this all down in a blog post. You're welcome to go read it. I'll tag it in the show notes just in case you are interested. But the reason I put never stop dating your partner, it's sort of cliche. People talk about it all the time, but it's so true. Zach and I have found that when we stop putting time on the calendar specifically for us to go on a date, whether it's going out to Texas Roadhouse and then seeing a movie, or one time we even, because we've been on a budget recently, we stayed home. We had steaks in the freezer and potatoes at home. And so we did steak and potatoes and maybe a salad or something. And then it just so happened to be a holiday weekend. And we had some reward points or whatever from a long time ago for our Nintendo Switch. And we were able to get a few different good co-op games so that we just sat there and played games for a couple hours. And it doesn't sound like much, but we laughed so much. We had so much fun on that little date. And that was just a year ago, So I feel like I think the advice that I had heard as we were getting married was every 3 weeks go on a date, every 3 months go away for a weekend. Or an overnight, and then every 3 years go on a week-long vacation. Now, that's a huge goal. We would love to be able to do that someday. Right at this moment in our lives, though, we are not in a place to afford maybe that much or extravagant of dates, but we do try to at least once a month to have something on the calendar if our support systems will allow it. I've also recently heard something about building in time to talk and pray or play, probably pray too, but play with your partner. So it doesn't always have to be deeply intimate. It could be sitting down and playing a card game, or I don't know, talking about your dreams for the future or whatever it may be. you like schedule time to have conversations with your spouse that are not about the children or your jobs necessarily. Like I've heard that recently too. Might have been Jenna Kutcher talking about it, but and she has a podcast called Goal Digger. So I really enjoy that podcast. But anyway, so this is just something that we've chosen to do as a way to keep dating each other in our relationship. And, even Zach, like sometimes, if I dress up really nice for work one day or something, he'll talk to me still like we're dating. Like he doesn't, I guess sometimes treat me like his wife. He'll just go, man, how am I supposed to not think about you all day, or something like that. Like, he's silly and spicy. But anyway, so that would be my number 7. So, number 6, never watch your shows without each other. So it's a little bit of a joke, but for real, we love finding shows that we both like to watch and watching them together. It's a lot of fun to get engaged with the characters and really just to have even a storyline to talk about outside of what we have going on, right? And so it feels like a huge betrayal when you watch that show without the other person because it's been a you thing together. So we only allow that if there has been explicit permission given. And it's kind of like making time for each other, right? So it's that like 30 or 60 minutes every day that we are intentionally spending together out of our whole week, maybe, it kind of counts as a mini date too. And so like I said, we use it as a talking point. So recently, and I'm going to totally do a shameless plug. Lately, the show that we've really, really enjoyed is called The Promised Land, and it is on YouTube. I will link to the pilot episode in my show notes. But let me just tell you, especially if you are a Christian family looking for a way to maybe find an enjoyable show that has religious or spiritual biblical themes in it that is both funny and pretty biblically accurate. This show is totally up your alley. I mean, I really enjoyed The Office. Especially when I was in college, I really loved watching The Office. I still love watching The Office. That like interview style, funny, kind of, I don't know. It's quirky humor, but it's not. It's just kind of dry sometimes humor, but really it's like funny social interaction kind of humor. This is that show. If I could describe this show, it's like The Chosen meets The Office, and it is phenomenal. The characters and casting is incredible. I love the way that they've really like built into these characters that we read about in the Bible, because if you do read your Bible regularly, or if you've read Exodus a few times, like you will get a kick out of some of these characters, like Joshua, for example, like Caleb, like Cora. There's just so much in this show. So I highly recommend it. In fact, if you follow the Promised Land on social media, they even have released reading plans so you can read the parts of Exodus that they're going to be kind of talking about in the show that week. And so anyway, 10 out of 10 recommend The Promised Land. I cannot say enough good things about that show. It is really, really quickly been my number 1. So if you're looking for something to start watching with your spouse, I highly recommend it. And it actually just got greenlit for season 2, which is really exciting for those of us who are already big fans. So Do not watch your shows without each other. Okay, so number 5 would be that you should be on the same page about handling your money. So, something I recommend to people regularly. I mean, if you have followed me for a little while, you might know that I am a big fan of the Ramsey Solutions team. I really like Dave Ramsey and the show, and I know sometimes he can be a little much for some people because he has pretty strong opinions, but um, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, as they say in the country music world. But I don't know. He's very passionate, and he's just simply saying what worked for him and trying to help coach people through it. So that means that maybe it isn't right for you. But anywho, I really like it, and I like that it is a biblically based financial system, and it's very step by step. So I don't feel like I have to try that hard to know how I should be handling my money. I do have to try pretty hard to stay on track with it, but that's a me problem. And anyway, so I really love the Dave Ramsey crew, and their plan is called Financial Peace University. And my husband had taken Dave Ramsey's high school curriculum growing up through high school. I did not do that. My personal finance class was quite different. And so I think it was in college I had just graduated college, and I had asked my dad for the financial peace class, and I received it for a Christmas gift. And I started taking it. This is before my husband and I were married, and I wish we had taken it as a part of our premarital counseling, because I think it would have saved us some, I don't want to say strife, that sounds dramatic, but like it would have saved us some confusion and disagreement earlier on in marriage. Not that we would have not gotten married because of what we found in this course, but it would have given us a way to communicate about something that is really difficult to communicate about. One of the most significant causes of divorce in America is actually financial disagreements. Like money problems is one of the biggest problems in most marriages causing the divorce in America, which is almost, it's like 50% or something. Divorce is ridiculous in our country. And so this platform really helps create a space for you to talk about it. And so Zach and I now know that I'm probably more of a saver and he's a little bit more of a spender. And we know that I'm the nerd, but he's, maybe more of a free spirit. I think we sort of take turns being the nerd and the free spirit, depending on the maybe spending category. But really, what I'm telling you is finances are not a thing that you want to wait to understand about how each other handles your money. And so we kind of have noticed that because we now make the budget together and we kind of have agreed on these common goals for our future, it's really empowered us in spending and maybe even the lack thereof. And that's really helped us prioritize our time and our effort in this sort of realm of, how hard do we need to be working, side hustles, primary jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And so right now our big focus is paying off debt. So we are very, very focused on that, and both of us are working hard to try to make extra money to cover those debts that we're trying to pay back. And so, and we've even had, if you follow me on social media, you may go back and you'll see that we've got like a paper chain that hangs in our hallway. Our children get to cut off rings of this paper chain as we pay off debt. And so it's a way that we've kind of pulled our entire family into the rung, trying to get everybody involved in this debt-free journey, and also helping us kind of have conversations with our kids about wise spending and ways to handle your money, et cetera, et cetera. So I think getting on the same page about your finances is extremely important to have a healthy and strong Christian marriage. And I would also say, like, don't forget about the whole what's mine is his and his is mine thing. Like, when we got married, we became one. We became one body, right? And so in that becoming one, we have our accounts are joint. We don't separate our funds because we are like, his money is my money. I could not tell you where my income ended and his began in terms of our bank account. Like, yes, obviously I can go back and look and see, but like, it doesn't matter which one of us pulls out the card at a dinner if we go out to a restaurant, because it's all the same money. It's all coming from the same pot. So that's one way. And so, like, you have to be able to trust each other to be able to do that, which leads me to my next point. You really have to be able to trust your partner. So number 4 is you have to be able to trust your partner. If you don't trust your partner, like, I don't understand how you can function in your marriage, especially. He and I, we talked about this in the episode with him. That was episode 2. He and I have gone through some trust issues earlier on in our relationship, and like, our trust was completely broken. And so it was kind of like starting from ground zero to rebuild it. And if I'm being honest, it took years. Like, it took me years to fully trust him again. But because of that, we gained this really strong foundation. And in place of what was a default naive trust before, now we have kind of a deeper and more robust version of trust, because we've had to then, like, rebuild through and around those issues that we went through. So it took some compromise on both of our sides, and we spent a lot of time together and started really small. Gosh, it was like something as small as telling him, what I wanted for dinner from a fast food place, and trusting that he would remember and get my order right and bring it home to me. Like, it sounds almost petty when you put it that way, but really it was a necessity to, like, we had to start that small. So, and it wasn't like about perfection, right? It was more about caring and listening and stuff like that. So we went through, we did small trust exercises, like telling each other where we were and when we would be home, and trusting each other to run an errand maybe without the other, and things like that. And as we built that deeper trust, it was sharing our deepest feelings and truths confidently with each other too, and believing that the other person would treat those feelings and truths as their own. I vented a lot to Zach in that time as well, and I had to be able to trust that he was going to keep whatever I was saying maybe to himself, things like that. So, and I know every couple is different. So, like, the way that you build trust or have built trust with your partner is definitely, or maybe different than the way that Zach and I built trust. But I mean, to this day, it's still learning to trust, right? So, because we're still learning to be the people we have to learn to be as parents too. So I have to be able to trust that if he says he's going to pick the kids up, that he's going to pick them up on time. Or I have to be able to trust that if he's going to take my son hunting with him, which hasn't happened yet, but I'm preparing my mind for it when it comes, that it's going to be a safe time together, right? Like, that he's going to teach Bennett how to hold a gun safely, or hold bow safely and how to hunt safely. Um, Trust is not something that you will have overnight. And if you're in a marriage where you feel like you can't trust each other, um, I would really encourage you to consider counseling. Maybe talk to your pastor, or even just start doing some Bible study together, because trust is also part of fellowship. Like, you can't gain trust with someone if you're not regularly spending time with them. And the best place to spend time with them and grow trust is when you're spending time with them in the Word together. So, anyway, communication is a huge part of trust. Um, and that actually brings me to my number 3. So I would say number 3 is communicate like your life depends on it. So as we were trying to get through this trial of trust, right, we really, really had to learn to communicate with each other. And in a lot of ways, we over communicated with each other. It was truly a challenge. Um, and if I'm honest, like, I mean, we were young, so, this may not be feasible for you, but it got to a point where we almost called each other, I think, every night, like while I was in college and he was in high school, which, yes, I'm older than Zach. We talked about it, I think, in the podcast. We Building trust is so rooted in communication, because you have to be able to first trust the communication that someone is giving you, but also without transparent communication or regular communication, it is hard to trust somebody. And nowadays, and I'm kind of going back to trust, but nowadays some people share their locations. Zach and I do share ours, but it's because neither of us have anything to hide, and we both feel like, maybe it's a safety issue, and that, like, I can find him if I need to. And either way, I don't know how you want to build trust, but communication was huge for us. And so, part of that was this, I think we told this story in episode 2, but when we were trying to work through this stuff, we got to a point where we were literally kind of like, we were going to break up. And Zach was trying to break up with me, and I kind of, after some thought, and I believe God gave me these words, I couldn't have been this smart. I said, I understand that you need to, like, find yourself again, but could I be a close friend to you? Like, could I still be your girlfriend while you're doing that? Because, we were best friends too. So it was hard for me to think about who was I going to send that funny meme to? Like, who was I going to talk to anymore? Like, who was I going to hang out with? And so, why I said, like, why do you have to do that alone? Can't I support you? Can't I be here with you? And, that's what we did. And so, basically, I think that communicating with each other in every season matters. Those silly conversations that you talk about are practice for the serious ones. So, like, we check in daily, or as often as possible. Sometimes, with 3 kids as young as we have them and as busy as we are, we often aren't always going to bed at the same time. But when most every day we are checking in with each other, and it sometimes is just, how did your day go? And sometimes it could be something more serious, but I don't know. Listening is just as much a part of communication as actually talking. So remember that when you're having those conversations, you need to be actively engaged and listening to what they have to say. And obviously vice versa. They need to be listening to what you have to say. So, okay. So number 2 is that your children do not come before your spouse. This is controversial. Some people don't agree with this, but you have to remember that your children, your job as a parent right now, not only to teach and coach and discipline your children so that they can grow up and become responsible, productive members of society, but it's also to show them what a healthy marriage looks like. And so you can't be mad at your child. If you have a daughter, maybe you can't be mad at your daughter later in life if she picks this terrible guy to be her boyfriend or whatever. Because if you and your husband have not shown her what unified marriage looks like, or your husband hasn't shown her what a good guy looks like in his parenting journey as a father, she's going to pick somebody who doesn't meet that standard, right? Because she doesn't know any better. And so we can't forget our responsibilities in that way to showing our kids that healthy relationship. And so there's this funny skit, I shouldn't say skit. I think it was part of a sermon by Craig Rochelle, where he's talking about how, like, when he comes home, I think they had 6 kids. When he comes home, he goes straight to his wife. She gets the first hug and kiss when he gets home from work. And it should be that way. Because you and your husband, in most cases, were each other's person before your children came. And so your children need to know that your relationship is and should be first. Again, I realize this is controversial, so I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about it if you disagree, but your marriage is the foundation for your family. And that's in almost every marriage rights or whatever that I have ever heard. And so knowing that your marriage is the foundation for your family, it needs to be strong. Because when it isn't, first of all, your kids will play that back and forth. But second of all, it's pretty hard to feel like you're parenting strong when you're standing on quicksand, right? So, while your kids are important and they should come before a lot of things, your marriage is more important, which is why you should be dating your spouse. And you know, all the other things that I said. So, last and most actually is that God needs to be at the center of your marriage. Your priorities have to be aligned with God. So, I'll be the first to say God has not always been the priority in Zach and I's relationship. I know earlier on in our relationship, going to church and being involved in our church really wasn't a priority. I was under the impression that it was a choice or a gift that I should give to God of my time, talent, or otherwise. But honestly, it wasn't even a priority for me to give that gift. So I thought church was about the people and the process, not like the actual participating in and becoming a part of Christ's body. And that was me being naive and not really understanding my faith or not understanding the importance of my Christian walk. But I've actually learned a lot since then. So, 7 years ago, sleeping in was more important most of the time than attending church. And 7 years ago, I fell asleep in church a lot. And 7 years ago, I didn't really know anybody at my church, and I honestly wasn't interested in knowing them. I just kind of wanted to be able to attend or not without anyone noticing or missing me. I as if Jesus himself didn't already know me and my heart. So, somewhere early in our marriage, a youth pastor left our church, and we kind of talked about this with Zach's episode as well. But uh, at that time, the folks who knew us at the church kind of said that Zach would be really good at that job. And, we fast forward, and when that job opened up again, Zach ended up the guy who took the job, which set us on a trajectory to become more engaged and more active in our church by, in some ways, necessity. Like, that was part of his contract, but also, I've realized since that if I just let him maintain his end of the contract without engaging myself, it doesn't work. There's resentment. There's a lot of things that aren't working in our family, but God is not church. So I don't want this to sound like I'm saying like pour yourself into your church and that'll solve the problem. God has to come first in your marriage. So anything that you are questioning or anytime you're having a rough time, like God should be consulted and brought into that conversation, right? Like the answer should be, let's pray about it. Like, what does God say about it? What is God putting on your heart? Well, here's what he's putting on my heart. And at the end of the day, the more that you and your spouse look to God together, especially about the same issues, you will find not only more alignment and peace, you will also find that your relationship feels stronger. You feel more together, more in love. And I think that's because God is love. It's not always easy to keep God at number one, right? We are humans, so we get distracted and we get confused and all the things, right? But keeping him as number one will always be the right choice for your marriage. And so now, Zach and I love spending time with our church family because, well, we've allowed them to become our family, and we pray for each other, and we always are rooting for each other. Like, I don't know. So Bible study is a thing in our family. We're not always consistent with it, but it's important to us that the Bible is our foundation. And so, again, it's like that pouring into not only our relationship, but our relationship with God, which will then eventually pour into ours. So that's my 7 things, right? So it was, to review for you, never stop dating your partner. Never watch your shows without each other. You should be on the same page about handling your money. You have to be able to trust your partner. Communicate like your life depends on it. Your husband comes before your children. Your marriage comes before your children. And God has to be the center of your marriage. God has to be the focal point. Anyway, I hope that this has resonated with you. If you have any questions or thoughts for me, please reach out. You can email me at ashton@ashtonkeever.com. You can find me on social media at Ashton Keever blog. You're also welcome to leave a review or a comment on my podcast. So I appreciate all of you who come back and listen every week. As we kind of go as I start to wrap up this first season, I just want to say thank you for all who have listened. I will be doing a short season for the holidays, and we'll pick back up at the first of the year with all new content and new guests. and I hope to keep seeing you there. So don't forget to look for those miracles in your everyday. Thank you for listening to Miracles in the Madness. I hope today's episode encouraged you and reminded you that even in the chaos, God is faithful. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who might need encouragement. You can also visit my blog at ashtonkeever.com for more stories, scripture, and resources to help you walk in faith every single day.